Well, today we have with us Dr. Isatou Touray. She is the former Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia. Prior to this role, Dr. Touray served as Minister of Trade, Regional Integration and Employment, and later as Minister of Health and Social Welfare. Prior to her involvement in national politics, Dr. Touray served as the Executive Director and was the co-founder of the Gambia Committee on Traditional Practices Affecting the Health of Women and Children, which is known by its acronym GAMCO-TRAP. This organization and Dr. Touray led the successful campaign to ban the practice of FGM in the Gambia back in 2015. Dr. Touray is the past recipient of the World Democracies Network Annual Prize for Women's Leadership. This was a ceremony that I was fortunate enough to be at in Washington, D.C., which seems like a lifetime ago almost. And recently, Dr. Touray returned to her leadership position at GAMCO-TRAP, where she remains a leading voice in the country against gender-based violence, women's rights, as well as an advocate for the rule of law and democratic rights. So thank you so much, Dr. Touray. It's such a blessing to see you today, and thank you for spending time with us to discuss this important issue.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here, and I am available.
Thank you so much. Well, let's just kick this off. I want to start by asking about, of course, the topic of the day, the potential rollback on the ban of FGM in your country, the Gambia. Despite outcry across the board from activists and survivors, the parliament last week advanced a bill to decriminalize FGM. The government committees, of course, will be able to propose amendments before it comes back to parliament in several months, but if the bill is ultimately passed, the country would have the distinction of being the first country ever to reverse a previous ban. So I wanted to ask you if you could please set this scene for us. How did we arrive to this point, and what are the underlying reasons for this current predicament?
Thank you very much. I think that's a very, very important question. And to give you a small history on why we have come to this stage, this is as a result of the fact that GAMCO-TRAP, as the leading women's rights organization working on sexual and reproductive health rights, and specifically looking at FGM, early marriage, and other forms of harmful practices, was busy going around through its regional coordinators to see what is happening in the communities, to be able to know whether FGM is still going on or not. So on that day, in January 16th, when the senior coordinator was going around in the CRR North and South, he came across one of the circumcisers who promised to abandon the practice, trying to cut about 8 girls from 2 months, I think 2 months to, from 1 year to 2 months to 1 year, 8 of them. But luckily 3 were caught and the 5 were rescued. Now, when they were rescued, he called the child welfare officer, and then it was reported to the office, and I said they must report to the police, and then make sure that they have the evidence, let them follow the procedures, take the children immediately to the hospital before they bleed to death. So it was during that process that this thing happened, and then Mamadou Keita followed up the procedures, and then it became a case. Now, GAMCO-TRAP was interested in this because this is the first time after the promulgation of the 2015 law against FGM that we are going out to prosecute and see how effective the law is. Because all the cases that were sent or that were referred to the police before the bill was put in place, they were rejected on the grounds that there is no specific bill or law protecting the girl child, and they were hiding under the guise of religion or culture and tradition. So we followed it up, and there was resistance at the initial stage, because when we reported to the police, they were not very coming out openly. So we started the negotiation, and we got our lawyers, and then luckily I was invited by the German police project to come and have a sensitization with the senior police officers on FGM and SGBV. When we went, we took time to use this space and engage with them constructively. And then when we created that awareness, you could see the immediate impact. What they said to us was, "Madam, we did not get to know that this is what is happening to girls." And exposing us to this information is very empowering. And I can assure you that this is no longer the case of GAMCO-TRAP. It belongs to IGP. And therefore, the case became IGP versus Yasin Fati and team. Now, they took the case and followed it diligently. They did everything they could do, and the case was finally sentenced. They were sentenced. They were fined $15,000, or if not, they will go to prison for 1 year. And when that happened, it sparked resistance from some religious scholars that why should the woman be sentenced and be charged? So they took their vehicles. I don't know where they got the money from, and decided to go there and pay the fine. After the fine was paid, they told them you can continue doing FGM. And I said, over our dead body, you can pay the fines for her, but as long as the law has been applied, where she gets the money is not our business. But we want to ensure that the children are protected and that the law is obeyed. And that is what happened. Now, from there, it sparked a lot of debates and insults. We were attacked verbally. Some were sending us very nasty messages, and the magistrate himself was being attacked by this thing. And the great gentleman, who is Mamadou Keita, who actually reported the matter and was responsible for following the case on behalf of Gamco, was also detained temporarily. And then we had the involvement of the National Human Rights Commission. We also involved the police, but the Inspector General of Police was very consistent. They actually stood on their grounds. They did whatever they were able to do. And this is where we were at. But then the religious scholars and some National Assembly members were agitating, saying, why should that happen? Forgetting the fact that this is children's rights, it's women's rights, and there is a law in place, and the law is to protect and promote the human rights of women and girls regarding harmful practices, which is very clear. So this is where the whole debate started, and that then the other NGOs came in. I made a press release to that effect, and I wrote a letter to the international community, to our partners, and then the debate started. And then you saw the involvement of organizations who were coming. Over the years, Gamco was able to build the capacity of a lot of young organizations in the country, so that they will also be part of the voices, to amplify their voices, stand up for their rights, and also to protect their children, because they're going to be parents. They are also affected. And we wanted to ensure that everybody is involved. And I was very happy with that, because we had the dividend of getting everybody involved, especially under the network of gender-based violence. Then Gamco and other organizations, including the support from other partners and people all over the world, started to come and raise issues about the issue. And in the country, there was silence. If you look at it from quarters that I least expected, silence from the state, because saying that we are going to deal with it, I'm not saying that it's not being dealt with, but how there is no unequivocal statement regarding a stance as to this is the law must be respected, and we must protect the women and girls. That did not come out. The Ministry of Gender also was consulted. I wrote letters. There was nothing. So, of course, you can imagine this is where it came, and it emboldened some of these people to come out, and even during the saying that they are going to repeal the law. In a democratic dispensation, it's a very critical issue. In a democratic dispensation where there is law, and it's positive law that is going to guarantee, based on the Bill of Rights, that the country itself has committed itself to promote women and girls and to protect them from harmful practices, with all the Article 5, the Maputo Protocol, CEDAW, the ICPD, SODGIA, and all the international and national regional protocols that have been signed, including the Constitution of the Gambia, to say that they are going to repeal a law that is supposed to bring in positive values and protect the children from harmful practices is in itself interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for that broad context. I think that's so important for people who may not know about this issue and the particulars of the situation in the Gambia. I think it's just crucially important for people to understand that. But among the interesting points you raised, one thing that really stuck out to me is the fact that there are proponents of repealing this ban, claiming that cutting young girls, typically between the ages of 10 and 15, which is the common practice, they're claiming that this is somehow a religious obligation, right? Or in your words, they're saying it's a cultural tradition. And as such, these practices should not be infringed on by the government. What is your response to that specific argument? Because there really seems to be a divide here between the law as it currently exists and culture and the friction that exists in that void. Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Indeed, it is very interesting. And I was lucky to be there on the second reading. And when I heard those National Assembly members swearing to say that female genital mutilation is a religious injunction, it is the height of ignorance, the height of lack of awareness, the height of insensitivity. I believe as National Assembly members, people who are being identified by their communities to serve as their touch and their representative, if they are going to invoke or they are going to talk about issues that they feel should be repealed, they would have done proper research or investigations to get the information right. There was gross ignorance. Some of them were saying, Billahi, wallahi, talai, this is our religion, this is our culture. I agree with the fact that this is our culture. I agree with it. But it is not our religion. Because if you go to the Quran, which is the main principal document for us, it's not mentioned there. You understand? You go to the authentic hadith, it is not there. All hadith that are relating to this have been identified as weak, and there are a lot of evidences in which this has been clearly spelled out. But the fact that it is not in the Quran, and the fact that there are many Muslims in the Gambia who are Muslims and are not circumcised in itself should tell you the evidence. But for them to stand and justify it in the name of Islam in itself was a very big disappointment for me. And I felt that they need to be educated, they need to be sensitized, they need to be given references for them to do their own research or bring in the experts. And let me tell you one thing, Jeff. There was a time when, in between that time, when it was very hot, there was a quick consultation by religious scholars. And one of our greatest activists in terms of fighting this, a member of Gamkotrap, a co-founder, Imam Babali, was there. It was obvious that we were on the right side. He stood up, and people and all the discussions that they made all pointed out to the fact that it is not a religious injunction. So you will find that for those people who are our lawmakers, if they can stand up on that principle to say that this is our religion, where do women stand? And the Islam is a religion of peace. Islam is saying don't no harm. There should be no harm. All these things are there preached, and we know. And even if it was a religious injunction, according to Islamic principles, if a doctor brings in the evidence or there are evidences showing that this is harmful, it should be stopped. So these are all processes that are engaged. So I want to tell you that we need to educate them about the religion. This has nothing to do with our religion. This FGM has preceded all monotheistic religions. It was during the time of the period of darkness when this practice was being done, and it manifests in different places in trying to control female sexuality. If you do an analysis across section, it was all about control of the body of the woman, the control of the feelings of the woman, and also trying to control the reproductive activity of the woman based on let's say, what can we diminish on the woman to be able to control her? It's all about that. It has nothing to do with Islam. And I was really disappointed. I was disheartened because I was there together with people, women who read the Quran, men who read the Quran, and some religious scholars who knew what the Quran was, and they knew it was not in Islam. But because they are the lawmakers, they are supposed to be guided by principles in making laws. If these are the people, the Gambia has to look at who is going to be there to engage on behalf of the polity, particularly when it concerns gender-specific issues. It has nothing to do with Islam. And I told them, if it is Islam and you can find the verse in the Quran, tell me, I will close Gamko Trap. That's what I said. I will close Gamko Trap. But for the last 25 years, Imam Fatih has been talking about this, and other scholars that he is breeding. They cannot bring the evidence, and they are still standing on those principles. Some of those National Assembly members were trained by Gamko Trap before they became National Assembly members. And after they became national, and some had benefited from our training. And it is interesting that I want to tell you one thing. Four of them who are now calling for the repeal of the law. One was the consultant that was training the ex-circumcisers on entrepreneurship development for their AEO. He used to be the majority leader. Then you have one of the ladies who has been trained as a community-based facilitator and is now represented a region as a National Assembly member. Two of the others, of them, this is third and fourth person, all benefited from Gamko Trap training and they were exposed to all these things. Now, for them to go with all that sensitivity and that heightened awareness to join the team that is trying to repeal a law that protect the sexual and reproductive health rights of women and girls, protecting from harm, putting them to harm's way, is indeed very interesting. So it raises fundamental questions as to how are we going to do to ensure that we have people who are enlightened, people who are educated to the level that they will be able to stand up and encourage progressive laws and protect the polity. Because to become a National Assembly member, you have competed and people identified you. You are supposed to be the torch bearer of your community, of your constituency, even if it is something that they have been doing and they are interested in, because you are the leader who is being given the church and you have gained heightened information about that. You should be stoical. You should be brave enough to go there and talk about it and tell them, this is not good for you. But let me tell you one thing, Jeff. The communities have a heightened knowledge about FGM and Islam than some of those National Assembly members. So I feel very proud to see that the debate as it is going, yes, the National Assembly, is their right, because I cannot interfere, neither you or any other. It's their right to come up with a private member's bill. So let's see what happens when they want to go out to talk about it to the people, because we've been there for a very long time and we have done so much and we have experienced 7 dropping of the knife ceremony. That cannot happen if the knowledge is not heightened, if they have not cleared the values, gone through a values clarification session, reaching to consensus that it's not our religion. Because I am a Muslim, even though they said I am a heretic. I am, I am challenging Islam. I am trying to embolden the women and girls to do things that are contrary to our religion. All sorts of things are being said. But if it had been, if it was the practice in my religion, I would not have, or I may not have done it. But luckily, it is not there. So we are standing on very firm principles. Now, for that reason, if it is not there, and all these discussions are going on, and the people have already cleared that, then they agree to make a public declaration after they have agreed. And this is not about few villages, communities, cluster communities with large numbers. And we have the pictures, we have the evidence, we have uploaded some of them on our website for people to see that it was not like going there to just, they've given us the money, let's go. It was hard-earned success and efforts that were made over the years by many activists, many people and organizations. Gamco Trap consistently engage the communities because we believe that when people are enlightened, just like we were enlightened to protect our daughters, they will also be protecting their own children. And I believe advocacy, community sensitization, awareness raising, and following up on them to discuss new things that are community development are things that we should continue to do for the people to make their decisions. This is the situation here. It is not a religious injunction, and I want to make it clear. It's not only what is the problem. There's a gender dimension to this religious issue. When women are highly educated or they have knowledge, men feel that religion is the domain of men, and when women speak, they don't listen. Now, religion does not belong to anybody except those that search for it, get the knowledge, and seek it, and it's an individual affair between you and your Lord Almighty. And the knowledge you gain, you should share it for the best of the people. Now, this is what is the problem. But we have all the relevant verses that they argue on. We have prepared modules. We have a systems approach to the work we do, using it from a religious perspective, human rights-based approach, using it from a health-based approach, using it from a traditional practice of approach, using it from women's rights, children's rights, and also from the sexual and reproductive right perspective. So this multimedia modular package that Gamco Trap applies is what brings in the change. And we allow the people to ask the questions. And we have also women's space only, because there are certain things that touches on your body, or the outcome of some of these practices comes to show after you have engaged in your reproductive activity, or you are getting older, then you start facing certain things and you cannot explain. So when we have that space, that's when you begin to see women revealing their situations and their conditions and making testimonies for people to understand. And from there, we agree to disagree to agree. So I am surprised that actually most of the people who are talking and promoting this are coming from the men, playing on the fact that, yes, the women over there want it to continue. It's not true. I can tell you that. Let them subject it to referendum and see. Then we will know what is there. The chiefs, the district chiefs, I want to tell you, have been very supportive because most of them are well read in their religion. Most of them are well read and they can quote the Quran. They understand. Now, when we do the sensitization and they come, they are all behind the upholding the anti-FGM bill. We have made consult. Immediately they started talking. Gamco Trap was in the field. We met the ex-circumcisers. We had a meeting there. Then we met the chiefs. We met the community-based facilitators. We met different target groups. And the issue was the bill should not be removed. We had a policy dialogue in November where we invited the chiefs from those regions, including the circumcisers, to have an interface, including the organizations that are working on it. Some of them who attended were there. And the outcome was there was unity of purpose and direction that it should not. The EU was even present. You understand? The report is there. I can share it with you when I'm ready to get so that you see what came out of that. So there has been consistent efforts that are being done. We have been using our platforms, working with other young organizations on their watching their platforms, see what the discussions are, and providing the support that we need. That is what it is. So it's not a religious injunction. It is culture, yes, but culture is not static. We all know that culture changes. Culture is on a continuum. If we want to go back to culture, then we would have been living in round huts. People were not going to school then. People were drinking from the wells. They were living, they were having thatched roofs. But now you go up country, you find very few thatched roofs up there. You find that people are bringing in taps. Even within the wells, they want to have handles to push it. They have labor-saving devices. Why don't we say, let us remain to where we are, the back-breaking this thing? All this is part of our culture. Now, with all these things and the type of food we are eating, so if that is changing with time, and we have found out there are culture, we are not questioning our culture in its entirety. We are positive cultures, there are negative cultures. And we need to subject them to gender interrogate them. Those days when men were circumcised without any attestation, now they all go to the hospitals or call the doctor or this thing to cut them. But this one is not necessary. This is part of the anatomy and physiology of the woman, and that is what made her a woman, and that is what is making her to be able to perform certain functions, you understand, that are gender specific. So it should not be removed. And there is nowhere it is said that it should be removed. So that culture has to stop, and the whole world is fighting it. It's not only in the Gambia. And the Gambia had done very well over time when it accepted to sign all those protocols and then translate that to a law, especially during the time of a dictatorship. Before a democratic dispensation, we must acknowledge the fact that that was towards moving from formal equality to substantive equality. I think what needs to be done now, we should consolidate the gains, look at what provisions we have to do. Even with this case, when it happened, they should have come out unequivocally to support the IGP's office. That is a government body that is support, that took its responsibility because it's about the law. And I appreciate that very much. And for the work that they are doing to protect the innocent children. These were very young babies. If you see those pictures, you see what happened. When they were taken to the hospital, the doctor's report in itself speaks for itself. So these are some of the things. Now, if our religious leaders are conniving with some of the national, and I want to make some clarification though, it's not every national, but if you look at the numbers that have said we should repeal, and now that they have come to consensus, what does that tell you? There was conspiracy. Yes, we are not going to repeal it. We are going to throw it out, but it was not thrown out. There was complete bondage and conspiracy there to say we should take it to the committee level. Now, if it goes to the committee, do you know what will happen? They are likely to change the language. They are likely to change the wordings. And then it might, to say that optional. If it is optional, then we might as well throw the bill out. That's not right. We must take responsibility. We must take, there is an article that is being referred to by some of those people when they argue that even in the international conventions, you have the right to culture and so on, but not culture that will debase the humanity or the humiliate the bodily integrity and dignity of the person.
Yeah.
Those are things we have to preserve, the cultural, the positive ones, but the negative ones must be thrown out.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for that. We're running a bit short on time. We have about 1 minute left, but I did want to ask you, because you've talked a lot and very inspirationally about the local agency of women and girls in civil society and how they've consolidated gains and are working to protect the rights of women and girls. But we also know that outside pressure can sometimes exert a positive influence in the Gambia. Is there something that outside actors, development partners perhaps, can be doing positively to affect this situation? And what are the signs of hope you can point us to? If you could close out with that. We have about 1 minute left. I know that's a lot to
Yes.
cover, but would love to get your
I
thoughts on
think
those
the international community, the outside, the partners have been doing a lot. They have written letters, they've been appealing, they've been meeting the president, and some have been sending letters and have been actually reminding us of the state obligations. So they are taking the right steps, and we want to express our appreciation for that. The world is a global village, and all these things that are going on are happening in Africa. So it's important that we, Gambia, trying to start something that is going to be inimical to the other countries, I think needs to be addressed from different angles. Then the other hope I want to say is that I believe, I'm always there believing that we have done our job, we have done a lot, and we should continue to do. We need to continue to empower the people. People are stopping, whether you know it or not, whether it is properly captured or not, there are changes taking place. And the young generation who are engaged I believe, will not subject their children to FGM, and we should continue. We should continue to invest in women's rights work that is going to protect and address in the gender inequalities, empower the communities, and also do analysis, make research to be able to address this thing in a very strategic way. Knowledge is power, and I know that with knowledge, changes will come, and change is constant and is on a continuum, and nothing can stop it. With this debate going on, the National Assembly members are using their privilege that has been given to them by the polity, by the people, and trying to exercise that on people who don't deserve what they are now calling for. And I'm sure we will succeed.
Absolutely. And you're right. I think you're absolutely right
Thank
that knowledge is power, but so too is setting a positive example. And you and your colleagues at Gamco Trap have been doing that for decades now, for years, and you continue to be an inspiration. So thank you so much for all the work that you do. We will definitely keep in touch, and we will look forward to seeing your progress on this, and definitely keep in touch and let us know how we can continue to raise awareness and exert a positive influence on an otherwise tragic situation. So keep up the good work, keep fighting the good fight, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.